Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're stepping right into that often blurry, sometimes confusing middle ground of politics to figure out what it really means to be a centrist.
You hear it all the time, right? The world seems split into two camps. But what about the political center? Is it just about splitting the difference? Or is it a real philosophy all on its own? What does it even mean to be there?
All right, so let's start with the basics and try to define our terms. The political center can feel a little slippery, so what are we actually talking about?
At its very core, centrism is all about balance. It's about taking ideas from both sides, things like social equality from the left and social hierarchy from the right. But, and this is the key part, it's fundamentally against any huge, radical shifts in either direction. And you'll often hear the word centrist used almost interchangeably with moderate. And that word really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? A moderate is someone who, by definition, stays away from the extremes. They're not super partisan or radical. So why? Why do people choose the center? It's not always about a lack of conviction or being wishy-washy. Actually, in a lot of cases, it's a very deliberate and thoughtful choice. Well, people seem to land in the middle for a few main reasons. For some, it's all about pragmatism. They just want solutions that work, and they don't really care which side of the aisle they come from. For others, it's a genuine ideological belief that balance and compromise are just the best way to run things. And then, of course, some people are there just because statistically, that's where their views happen to fall. And get this whole idea of finding a balanced middle is not new. Not at all. It has some seriously deep historical roots. I mean, we're talking about the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle, who argued that the best politics are guided by the center, because he saw real danger in the extremes of wealth and power. Now, here's something that's absolutely crucial to understand. The center isn't just one single point on the political map. It's much more like a neighborhood, with different blocks and different addresses. Yeah, the center is definitely a spectrum. So on the center left, you'll find people who support things like social safety nets, but they still believe in a market economy. And over on the center right, the focus is more on economic freedom, but they're still okay with some social welfare programs. They're both looking for that balance Aristotle was talking about, just coming at it from slightly different angles. This whole idea got a really famous brand name back in the 1990s, the Third Way. You might remember leaders like Bill Clinton and Tony Blair talking about this. Their goal was to find a new path forward by mixing the economic energy of the right with the social compassion of the left. It was a massive idea at the time, and it really did reshape politics, even if critics felt it watered down traditional left-wing values. Okay, so that's the theory. But what does this actually look like in the real world? Well, if we look at different countries, we start to see just how diverse and, well, how many different flavors of centrism there really are. Take a look at the Nordic countries. Over there, a really unique kind of centrism grew out of agrarian movements. So parties like Norway's Center Party, they're not really caught up in the typical left-right economic fight. Their focus is completely different. They want to decentralize power, support small businesses, and protect rural life. It's a totally distinct version of the middle ground, shaped by their own culture and geography. And here in the United States, centrism has often burst onto the scene with these powerful third-party movements. Ross Perot's 1992 presidential run is just a classic example. He tapped into this huge frustration people had with both major parties and ended up winning almost 20% of the vote. And he did it with a super simple, practical message that just cut through all the noise. Hey, let's get the national debt under control. So, all of this brings us right up to today and to a really crucial question. What's the state of centrism now? In a world that feels more and more polarized, where does the middle ground even stand? Despite all the talk about how divided we are, the data tells a kind of surprising story. For the last 20 years, more than a third of American voters have consistently told pollsters they're moderate. So, while the loudest voices might be on the edges, there's this huge chunk of people sitting right there in the middle. And that massive number of moderates, it really points to a widespread frustration with politics as usual. The more fed up people get with partisan gridlock and the power of special interests, the more they start searching for a new political center, a place that might offer some practical, common ground solutions. That quiet 35% is a really powerful, maybe untapped force. And that's what we'll leave you with. As the political extremes seem to get louder and louder, is that quiet center a silent majority just waiting to be heard? Or is it a fading force in a world that's pulling itself apart?
The answer to that question might just define the politics of the next generation.